What's going on, Boomer Sooner Nation? As obviously, big loss over the weekend to your biggest rival, the Texas Longhorns. Probably your biggest game of the season. In fact, it is. It's not like you're going to be playing a number one team, I think, for the rest of this season. Obviously, maybe Alabama could start to get it rolling, or even LSU. But, Texas is your biggest rival. And boy, what a letdown performance for Oklahoma. And it just comes to the biggest question thus far this season. Oklahoma's quarterback situation has been the worst in the SEC. No one really saw that coming in. I think a lot of people thought that Jackson Arnold was going to have a decent year. Now, he didn't really play well in the bowl game against Arizona. So, what can you really do about that? Well, guess what? Coach him in the offseason, and it seems like that just didn't work out. They go with Michael Hawkins, who hasn't really turned the ball over. I know he had just one fumble. I think he has one turnover in 2 games. But, Oklahoma can't throw the football as well as they want. They really can't do anything right. It all starts on that offensive line. It's just been really, really bad for the Sooners. And they can't run the football. Had 80 yards rushing against Texas. Had, I think, 130 against Auburn. Okay, that's decent. Looking against Tennessee, and this is really when people started to question the quarterback situation. But he had only 35 yards rushing against Tennessee, 1 yard per carry. Just not going to get it done. Even the Houston game, a team that you should have beaten, pretty soundly. Houston is 2-4 on the season. I guess Houston's starting to look a little bit better. He had 75 yards rushing. So a lot of issues on the offensive line for sure for Oklahoma. Running back situation, not the greatest. Wide receiver situation, looking worse and worse every week. 4 or 5 wide receivers were out this past weekend. Just not looking good for Oklahoma's offense. Boy, oh boy, do you miss Dylan Gabriel. And I know a lot of Oklahoma fans would get upset at that because not a lot of Oklahoma fans, I think it was split last year with who liked Dylan Gabriel and who didn't. And boy, did you not just watch Dylan Gabriel torch up Ohio State, played a near perfect game and pulled the upset, getting Oregon's first ever top 2 win at home. They were originally 0-19 all time. They beat Ohio State 32-31, a game they probably should have won by a little bit more, but and Dylan Gabriel played, like I said, lights out. Boy, oh boy, if you had Dylan Gabriel this year, you certainly wouldn't, you probably wouldn't have lost to Tennessee, to be honest, in this Oklahoma game, or the Red River game would have been a lot closer. But what is Oklahoma going to do going forward? Well, it looks like you're going to go with Michael Hawkins, as Jackson Arnold didn't get any playing time against Texas. And midway through the, I would say, second quarter, I think that was kind of a question. Kirk even brought it up about maybe you give him another go, right? Maybe you give him another go because Hawkins just, I think at that point in time, he had like 50 total yards. He just couldn't get anything going. Oklahoma's offense couldn't get anything going. And no, you just keep Michael Hawkins in. And now you're going to play another team who, their quarterback situation is slightly better than yours, but it's not great either with Sellers at quarterback. He's not a great passer, just to say the least. And the South Carolina's offense has been struggling thus far this year. So, but you do get them at home, and it's a kind of a noon kickoff. It's a weird SEC kickoff for you. They have weird times, 12:45, 4:15, I think 7:45. Just weird, but, whatever. You do get them at home. South Carolina's coming off of a tough loss. But I don't know. I don't know for Oklahoma going forward, as looks like Barnes is your running back number 1. Javonte Barnes. Sawchuk has been a letdown. But this offensive line, to the defense of Michael Hawkins Jr., and even Jackson Arnold, this offensive line has been the worst in the SEC thus far, and I don't even think it's close. There's not much gaps in running lanes for your running backs. Not great protection. A lot of the plays have to be outside of the pocket for both quarterbacks. And that's kind of what Oklahoma's offense was anyways, but especially with these two quarterbacks, or really now just Michael Hawkins Jr., you have to get outside the pocket. Number one, because your quarterbacks just aren't that good at pocket passers. Number two, your offensive line is just terrible. Let's just say it how it is. Wide receiving core is depleted, and this Oklahoma offense is just terrible. Let's just say it how it is. Terrible thus far. No one really cares what you're doing in non-con, no offense. Obviously lit it up against Temple, who's a bottom 5 FBS team. Didn't look great against Houston or Tulane. And the most points you scored in SEC play thus far, 27 against Auburn, in which you didn't deserve to win that game. Just going to be honest there. Gave up almost 500 yards to Auburn. Won that game because of a pick 6, which is kind of poetic for Auburn's quarterback situation, which, believe it or not, is slightly better than yours. But you found a way to win that game. You're going to have to do kind of the same against South Carolina. It's going to be a very tough season because if you look at Oklahoma's next few games, well, you do play South Carolina, probably a bottom-tier team in the SEC. After that, at Ole Miss, who's going to come off a bye, and they're looking to play perfect football to end the season. They want to make it to the college football playoff. It's going to start against you. That's a game, and to be honest, if I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'm just going to hope and pray for the best, because I bet you Ole Miss is going to come out and try to beat you as much as they could. Maine, who cares? And in the last 3 games here, at Missouri, Bama, and then at LSU. Just a brutal finish, and to be honest with you, that's probably your biggest 3 games for your future of this football program. You got to remember, in Oklahoma, obviously Oklahoma fans know what I'm talking about. This was a more offensive team under Lincoln Riley. They were offense, no defense. Brent Venables changes up the philosophy and schemes, and next thing you know, no offense, all defense. And you can't win football games, especially in the SEC, without an offense. You're going to see this coming up this weekend. I don't necessarily know if you're going to be able to beat South Carolina. That's going to be a terrible game unless your offensive line can start making some better blocks, and your quarterback, like I said, looks like Jackson Arnold's just thrown away. He's done. That's just what I'm guessing. Michael Hawkins Jr., he's going to have to make some throws here. And South Carolina's a pretty well-coached defensive team, so I think you're going to have a little bit of the same that you've seen thus far. And really, to be honest with you, we already knew Oklahoma's schedule was really, really tough. I think you're going to end up, by the end of the season, playing 7 of the 8 or 9 best defensive teams in the SEC. So, yeah, this just a tough finish going forward, I think, for Oklahoma. I know fans don't really want to hear it, but a lot of the fans said that this team could make it to a college football playoff. I will say this, you do have the defense to do it. Problem is, their offense is just nowhere to be seen. Missing Dylan Gabriel for sure. I wouldn't necessarily say you're missing Levy, but we'll see upon that, as Mississippi State's just this is a throwaway season for Mississippi State, and he kind of just got out of Oklahoma, took the first job he saw, that's not good, to be honest with you, if I'm an Oklahoma fan. But you got rid of him, so congrats, I guess. You got that wish. But you don't have a quarterback. Run game's non-existent. I do like Javonte Barnes. I do believe he has potential. No offensive line and wide receiving core is depleted. Boy, you miss Dylan Gabriel, don't you? Look what he's doing at Oregon. They are going to the college football playoff. Hate to be like that, but they are. I think they're the only team right now that is a 100% lock. So, yeah, throwing away Dylan Gabriel was probably the worst decision I think Brent Venables ever made. We'll see what's going to happen going forward here. You do play South Carolina. This is basically your season. And what do I mean by your season? Well, 8-4 is technically not off the table, okay? But it's gonna be relatively tough. You're gonna have to win out on your home games and pick up one or two road upsets. Beating Alabama is gonna be an upset anyway. I don't know. For me in Oklahoma, I would be very, very concerned. I don't know necessarily if this quarterback position will be fixed because of that offensive line and because of the wide receiver injuries. So Oklahoma fans, let us know what you think about your team's offense, as obviously it's just been terrible this season. And dating back to the bowl game, I think that was kind of an appetizer for what was going to happen. But I personally, and a lot of you thought that Jackson Arnold would have gotten better throughout the offseason. Somehow, some way that he may have even gotten worse. I don't know how that's possible, but yeah, he turned out to be a turnover machine. Michael Hawkins Jr. He has yet to throw an interception. Probably just jinxed it there. But he just hasn't gotten the offense going. And, in that Texas OU game, you would have thought that Jackson Arnold would have gotten a chance. And I guess not. I guess, like I said, Venables just said, screw it. We're throwing him away. Michael Hawkins Jr., you're our guy. So, Oklahoma fans, let us know what you think. And, yeah, quarterback position has been the worst in the SEC and one of the worst in college football thus far. Oklahoma's big game on Saturday. They take on South Carolina, a couple-point home favorite at, I guess, 11:45 local time there. Over-under right now at 40.5. Boy, I would have to take the under there. But, yeah, it looks like Michael Hawkins Jr. obviously is going to be the starter. And we'll see if Oklahoma's wide receiving core can start to, come back from these injuries. Because, boy, do they need wide receivers going forward. Oklahoma fans, it's going to be a tough end to the season, at least in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe Brent Venables has fixed everything or fixes something going forward here, and you start to find your rhythm. It's going to be tough, though.